Welcome back to Never Enough Novels. Get ready for vacation with my 2025 summer reading list. This is the first time I'm putting together my own summer reading list, so let me know if this is something you would like to see each year. After the scandal involving that AI-generated summer reading list with books that didn't exist that actually made its way into newspapers, I thought it would be helpful to share my own recommendations, and I can assure you that all of these books actually exist. I normally gravitate towards easy breezy books during the summer, but I know other readers love to escape into fantasy or take a chance to tackle some heavier books or longer books. So I'm including a variety of options in this summer reading guide so that you can find the one that fits you best. Most of these books are ones that I've read, but a few of them are still on my TBR list that I'm planning to read sometime this summer, so I'll be reading right along with you. I'll put the links to these books down below, so if you purchase these books or anything else from Amazon or Target after clicking on these links, I earn a small commission and it is no extra cost to you. So that little bit makes a huge difference in helping keeping this podcast and YouTube channel running. And as a reminder, hit like on this video or subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow along with my podcast so you won't miss any of my book recommendations. Kicking off the summer reading list with a few romances, first up is Till Summer Do Us Part by Megan Quinn. Get ready for another laugh out loud, spicy rom-com from Megan Quinn. She hits it out of the park with this fake marriage summer camp romance. The premise is admittedly a little bit off the wall, but I promise it just works. So Scotty is our main female character, and she's trying to fit in with her married coworkers when she claims that she is also coupled up, but she's going through some issues with her husband. Her boss jumps to the rescue by offering up an appointment with her partner, who is actually a couples counselor. So now, desperate for someone to pose as her husband, Scotty turns to her best friend's brother, who loves improv and happily accepts the assignment. However, Wilder gets a little bit too involved, and he gets them invited to a week-long couples camp. So now Scotty and Wilder are hoping they can just fake their problems early on and then eventually reconcile by the end of camp. But as the days stretch on, Scotty finds herself being forced to face some of her demons from her actual previous marriage. She is struggling with Wilder's attention and the ultimate attraction that he has to her. So Wilder convinces her to use these therapy sessions to finally heal from her wounds from the previous marriage. And he finds that he wants to show her just how much love she actually deserves. And the issues that Scotty is dealing with are just incredibly relatable. It's all these small scars from her previous relationship that are full of loneliness and feeling like she's unworthy of any attention. And I loved how Wilder continuously showed her how she should be treated instead. So Megan does a phenomenal job mixing these deeper moments with some hilarious scenes throughout this book. The novel has a powerful message, yet still manages to be lighthearted enough for summer. Next up is a book I just finished called What Happens in Amsterdam by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And I feel like Rachel Lynn Solomon has flown under the radar, but I adore both her young adult and adult romances. I think she benefits from the fact that she's not being forced to pop out a new book each year. So her novels are always well plotted and full of great dialogue and the perfect amount of spice. I was particularly excited for this newest book because Rachel actually moved to Amsterdam somewhat recently, and she clearly incorporates her own experiences in this new city as part of this book. So her writing makes you feel like you're actually there with detailed descriptions of the food and the locations and the language and just general vibes of Amsterdam. This is a unique second chance romance in which two high school lovers find themselves in a marriage of convenience as adults. So Danny is desperate for a fresh start when she moves to Amsterdam, and things don't go exactly as planned though, and now she needs a visa to actually stay in the country. When she literally runs over Wouter, who is her former boyfriend, she discovers that he needs a wife in order to keep his beloved childhood home. So their marriage is a sham, but as they're forced to spend more time together, they quickly realize that the chemistry between them is definitely still there. But is it a good idea to fall for your husband? This is the perfect summer romance if you're looking for a second chance romance that will transport you to a gorgeous new city. The third romance on my list is called Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. And I just mentioned this in my best books of 2025 so far list because it is one of my favorite romances of the year. Ironically, I wasn't even aware of this book until it was actually published, which is kind of shocking for Ellie Hazelwood because she's one of my go-to authors. And she has yet to write a book that I've rated lower than 4.5 stars. But I found out that this is kind of a reader requested sequel to Not in Love. So I guess people were like begging Ellie to write Maya and Connor's story. So she started out just planning to do a novella, but figured out that these characters deserve their own full-length novel. So that's how we ended up with Problematic Summer Romance. And she was absolutely right about that. I had pretty low expectations going into this one because I barely remembered those two characters from Not in Love, but then proceeded to read this romance in just a few days. I was blown away by how much I loved Maya and Connor's story. So this is an age gap romance between Maya, who is in her mid-20s, and Connor, who's in his late 30s. The story takes place over the course of a week at Eli and Rue's wedding in Italy, but it includes flashbacks over the past 4 years, showcasing the development of Maya and Connor's friendship that turns into something more like a relationship. And I was so invested in this relationship that I was literally like tearing up along with Maya at one point near the end. I could feel her frustration with Connor and that cold acceptance that he wasn't willing to change his view of himself to pursue something with her. This was such a well-written story overall, and I love that Allie didn't shy away from the complications that this friendship and ultimately relationship presented. There are clearly some things that can go wrong with like a 14-year age gap, but she handled all of these situations and the stigma and the problems they might face just so well. I can't rave about it enough. These two are definitely going to be one of my favorite couples of the year. Next up is a thriller called Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister. This story starts when Camilla wakes up one morning to find her husband is gone and he's left a sort of cryptic note in his place. So Camilla is supposed to be dropping off her young daughter at daycare for the first time and returning to her job as a literary agent, so it's a big day for her. But her world is upended when she gets a call about an ongoing hostage situation. And as we all would kind of imagine, her first thought is that her husband is one of the hostages, but she finds out that he's actually the gunman. So now his note takes on a whole different meaning from this morning, and she has to decide what to do next. So we as readers are right there alongside her as she's making these impossible choices and facing this unimaginable situation. Then the novel takes a turn from this initial situation that I wasn't expecting at all. Slowly over the course of the story, we get glimpses into Luke's history and eventually piece together what happened that led him to this hostage situation. There were so many aspects of this book that took me completely by surprise. I really liked that the narrative isn't just focused on that one day, but covers both the time period before and after the incident. Plus, the ending was incredibly satisfying. All around, this is a 5-star thriller and a unique addition to this genre that's going to be unlike anything else you read this year. The next thriller on my list is called The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. This is a slow burn psychological thriller about a ghostwriter who is taking on a new personal client. So Olivia is struggling with her career after being blacklisted for calling out this misogynist author. So she has no choice but to accept this new assignment. It is for a famous horror author who is ready to tell the true story about the double murders of his siblings that happened decades ago. And that man is Olivia's father. Vincent was the sole survivor of this horrific attack on his teenage brother and sister back in the 1970s. And although he was cleared of any charges, he's basically dealt with lingering suspicion that he was the murderer for his entire life. But now he's facing a dementia diagnosis, and he's turning to his estranged daughter to finally explain what happened that night. Olivia is drawn home and thrust into this mystery that basically tore her family apart. The book is told through dual timelines and multiple perspectives, and the story explores trauma, memories, and the elusiveness of the truth. As Olivia digs deeper, she uncovers buried secrets and unreliable memories and some unsettling clues, leading to a final twist that redefines everything she thought she knew about her father and her family. Julie Clark does an incredible job setting the stage for the murders back in the 1970s, and then in present day building tension and unraveling this unexpected ending. Another thriller on my list that is still on my TBR, which I'm hoping to read this summer, is called Everyone is Lying to You by Jo Piazza. A unique spin on the hashtag tradwife trend is the basis for this thriller. So Lizzie and Bex were inseparable friends in college, but after graduation, Bex abruptly vanishes, leaving Lizzie basically bewildered and wondering what happened to her friend. Now, 15 years later, Bex has reinvented herself as Rebecca Summers, who is a high-profile tradwife influencer, and she's constantly flaunting her perfect life on a sprawling ranch and her handsome husband and all 5 beautiful children. Lizzie, meanwhile, is now struggling in her life as a magazine writer and a mom, and she just feels kind of stuck until Rebecca unexpectedly reaches out to her and taps her for an exclusive interview and gives her an invitation to Mom Bomb, which is this major influencer confluence. But their reunion at Mom Bomb takes a chilling turn when Rebecca vanishes and Gray is found brutally murdered on their ranch. Lizzie is now thrust into this darker side of social media, and she's racing to untangle the web of lies with these viral influencers, secret affairs, jealousy, and betrayal. As she digs deeper, she uncovers a series of shocking revelations about her friend, and she's forced to confront the truth that in this world, no one is who they say they are, and everyone is lying. The first fantasy on my list is called Enchantra by Kaylee Smith, and this is part of a fantasy duology with Phantasma, but I've heard other readers raving that this is even better than the first book. And it seems like it can stand on its own, so you don't have to go and read Phantasma first. I wasn't planning to read Enchantra because I thought Phantasma was so unique and fantastic that I didn't really feel the need to continue on, but after all of the great reviews of this one, I'm definitely adding it to my summer TBR. I'm eager to hear more about the other sister, Genevieve, and her own experience in a different paranormal contest. So Genevieve is left with her own unanswered questions after their mother's sudden death, and she might have an opportunity to get some answers when she receives an invitation to Enchantra, which is this cursed palace in Italy that contains a deadly labyrinth. Only one occupant of the house can survive to win the game. So Genevieve is initially denied entrance by Rowan, who is one of the 7 siblings that are trapped in this game and forced to play it over and over. Genevieve finds a way to sneak in anyway, but she quickly finds herself with only 2 options: either get out right away or win the whole thing. Once he realizes that Genevieve is inside, Rowan convinces her to team up with him, and these two form an unlikely alliance. But dangers still lurk everywhere, and the most important rule is to never trust your heart. I think this sounds like it has some similarities to Phantasma, but like I said, I've heard from other readers that it does great as a standalone book and is different enough that it's absolutely worth reading both of these. The other fantasy I'm recommending is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. If you've listened to any of my YouTube videos or podcasts, you've probably heard me talk about this already because it is easily one of my favorite books of the year so far. I devoured this entire book in 27 hours because I literally couldn't put it down. It's so unique and such a compelling fantasy that it deserves to be read by absolutely everyone. So it focuses on our main character, Odessa, who is married off to a neighboring kingdom to fulfill this peace treaty. On the night of her marriage, Odessa finds out from her father that she is meant to spy on this other kingdom. So meanwhile, Odessa's sister had been training for this role her whole life, and Odessa has none of the skills necessary. So she's taking off for this foreign land, trying to spy for her father with absolutely none of the skills required. Her new husband, Xavier, barely speaks to her, and Xavier's right-hand man, who people call the legendary guardian, won't stop pestering her. But over time, Odessa learns more about the people of Tura and some of the dangers that they're facing. There are these atrocious beasts that roam the land, and some of them have been infected with a poison that makes them even stronger and more ruthless than normal. As she develops different friendships with some of the people of Tura, Odessa finds her allegiances shifting, and she starts to realize that what her father is asking of her might not be exactly what she thought it was, and he might not have her best interests at heart. There are so many different things that I love about this book. One of them is the fact that Odessa is just not our normal fantasy heroine. She's literally terrible at everything, like I mentioned, from running to playing politics, and she does train to try to get better at build her stamina and train with weapons, and she gets marginally better, but she doesn't become this incredibly amazing fighter all of a sudden. So it felt realistic and relatable, and that's someone that was so easy to root for. Also, the slow burn between Odessa and the Guardian was absolutely phenomenal. He was always popping up and annoying her, and she was constantly peppering him with questions that she probably shouldn't be asking, and they just had a really fun relationship to read about, to see it change throughout the course of the book. There were also a few twists and turns in this one that absolutely made me gasp out loud, that I did not see coming, and she does a great job setting us up for book 2, so I cannot wait to continue this series. Then moving on to a few more general fiction books. First up is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this is one of the hottest books of 2025, and I just recently got this from a bookstore because I saw that it was a signed copy, so I just couldn't resist. Normally, I'm a bit hit or miss on Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I know people are super fans of hers, and because this one is set in space or about space, I wanted to give it a try because that particular topic interests me and I think it would be really fun for summer. In the 1980s, a physics professor is chosen as one of the first women scientists to enter NASA's space program. Joan finds herself living out a dream as she meets other astronauts and diving into the world of NASA. The group comes from a wide variety of backgrounds and contains a range of personalities, but they form a bond as they train together. Joan finds a new passion for life and a new love that she never expected. But in December 1984, on mission STS-LR9, everything changes in an instant. So I'm dying to know more about what happens to these characters and these astronauts. It feels like the description is leaving us on a crazy cliffhanger, so I have no doubt this will be another unputdownable read from TJR. Another book I wanted to mention is called The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff, and if you're looking for a captivating family drama that spans decades, this would be a great option for you. Some of my bookish friends have picked this as one of their favorite reads of the entire year. It sounds like it's unputdownable and just a great summer option. At the beginning of the novel, Ryan and Lillian Bright are happily married and devoted parents of their young baby girl, Georgette. Except Ryan is hiding an alcohol addiction, and Lillian is actually hiding a son from Ryan that he knows nothing about. So Georgette spends her childhood watching the ups and downs of her parents' marriage and eventually distances herself from them completely, until Lillian's son comes searching for his birth mother, and Georgette is reeled back into their lives again. So within these pages, you'll see a family torn apart by secrets and tragedy, but ultimately redeemed through the power of grace and love. And the last book on my summer reading list is called Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. And I listened to this on audio somewhat recently, and admittedly it wasn't my favorite style, but I'm adding it to this list because it's extremely popular with regular literary fiction type readers. The atmospheric writing and the bit of suspense make it perfect for summer. I would recommend the audiobook if you're able to find it, since it has a full cast and the different narrators do really bring the characters to life, so you feel like you're immersed in the story. We meet the Salt family, a man and his 3 children, who live on this remote island near Antarctica. Dominic Salt is the caretaker of a seed bank, which is a fascinating concept in itself and a topic you will learn a lot about over the course of this story. This place holds the world's most important seeds, so they can be resown if large parts of the earth are destroyed somehow. And when a woman washes up on their shores who is searching for her husband, her time with the family upends everything they've built in this place and unearths secrets about what has happened with the Salts and the other researchers on the island recently. The novel did take a few turns that I wasn't expecting, and there was enough happening to keep me engaged and finish reading the entire book. So if it sounds like something you'd be interested in, I definitely recommend it for you. So that wraps up my 2025 summer reading guide. As always, I hope you guys found some new books to try this summer. Stay tuned for more of my book recommendations.